What's up, Oasis? How's everybody doing?
On this drizzly Monday afternoon.
Yeah, we just heard it. There was thunder. Thunder. Are you kidding me? Of course, the last time we heard that, it was, a week ago. There was a little bit of thunder
Before the snow.
before the snow, and everything went crazy.
And I think we're supposed to get somewhat
Yeah, I saw that.
snow on Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday is supposed to possibly be some snow. We'll see. We'll see. You know what? I was thinking about this morning with the weather. Is everything is perspective, right? So immediately, because the weather's been a little bit crazy, people make comments about, it's just 2020 hanging on. We wouldn't say that if 2020 hadn't been 2020.
We'd say this is Amarillo.
Yeah, we just say it's Amarillo. And that's pretty much it. I'm starting to talk to a bunch of folks, and all of a sudden everybody sounds like they have a radio announcer voice and their head is all plugged up. It's all perspective, man, because immediately they're like, do they have the COVID? No, they don't. They mowed. It's spring. It's all of those things. That's it. We're kind of wigged out by the previous year still, but anyway, a little bit gun shy. Hey, I have a question for everybody at home. I was just now thinking about it. What would be, put it in the comments, or let us know Sunday, put it in the comments. That's going to be probably the fastest to get it quickly. But what would be the fastest way for us to get information to you? For those of you who are at home watching this right now, is it, say if we were wanting to change service times or something of that nature, we were trying to get information to you quickly, what's going to be the fastest, most efficient way to do that? Is it going to be text? Is it going to be email? Is it going to be off Facebook? Is it a combination of any of those? Is it going to be some smoke signals? What do we need? So put it in the comments. What would be the fastest way to get it?
A railroad track and a stethoscope.
Oh, yeah. Just lay it on the ground. Service time.
And Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah. They're running about 5 minutes late. Just saying. Come on. So today I have what I'm going to be doing. I'm out of Colossians now, and this is just a passage that I talked about last night. We're starting a series kind of on Sunday night, and it's specifically for that Sunday night crowd, and it's going to be what does it mean to be living a sent life? So being on mission for God, and we recognize that God is in fact the sender, sending us out. But then when you begin to think about things like that, when you begin to think about being sent by God, there is an obedience issue, and there's a disciple issue, there is a discipline issue that goes into it. And what I want to talk about today is really kind of one of them, one of those discipline issues of, before I get too much farther, I'm going to touch on something that is a very human problem. It is not just the American dream, it's the human dream. We all want to be better, okay? Yeah. We want more out of life, and the reality is we will not do anything unless we know there's something in it for us. No human ever just does anything just like, I should just do this just for the heck of it. No, there's something in it or you wouldn't do it, whether it's the story or whatever.
And it's usually named and claimed.
Yeah, it is named. That's a good call. That is it. It is named and claimed. That was your intention. And we, as humans, we like to have our bell rung in a good way. Like, I like stars, and I like everything that goes along with that. So I'm going to ask you a question at the end of this, and let's see if it still is the same. So Isaiah chapter 6, we're going to read a passage. It's going to be super familiar, 1 through 8. It's going to be really familiar to everyone. But then we're going to get into verse 9, and the climate kind of changes a little bit. Okay? So Isaiah 6, starting in verse 1, it says, in the year of King Uzziah, that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up. And the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him stood the seraphim. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And one called to another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is filled with his glory. And the foundations of the threshold shook at the voice of him who called, and the house was filled with smoke. And I said, Woe is me, for I am lost. For I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. And then the one of the seraphim flew to me, having in his hand a burning coal that he had taken with tongs from the altar. And he touched my mouth, and he said, Behold, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin atoned for. And verse 8, familiar. And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? Whom will go for us? And then I said, Here am I, send me. And he said, Go and say to the people. And we're going to stop here for just a second and just kind of break this down. So the King Uzziah, when he had passed away, the kingdom was going nuts, right? Everything had been pretty stable, and now all of a sudden there's a power grab. There's the society, as it were, the kingdom is going crazy, and people are starting to make crazy decisions because that's just what we do. Everything was fine, but as the instant that somebody who is perceived of being in charge is gone, all of a sudden all heck is going to break loose. No one else is going to run this or whatever, so they're freaking out. And Isaiah comes on the scene, and he realizes that in this vision that he's in the presence of God. And he makes this statement, Woe is me. And he understands like fully that I'm in the presence of God. This never ends good. I'm a dead man walking. He says, Woe is me, and this is who I am. I shouldn't be here. I'm a sinner. I'm around sinners. And so God provides a way. The angels purify him, or the seraphim comes down, purifies him, and makes him to a position that he can be used and will be used. Great. And then what's crazy is Isaiah is privy to some insider information. You hear a conversation that goes on here. And it says, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? So you have a conversation that's going here, and an outsider, Isaiah, listening. And Isaiah says, I'll do it. So what's incredible is Isaiah comes from broken, messed up, everything that goes along with that. God handles the situation, purifies him. He's now usable. And then God asks this question, who's going to go? Who's going to do the work? Isaiah says, I'll do it, right? In verse 9, he says, and he said, Go and say to the people, keep on hearing, but do not understand. Keep on seeing, but do not perceive. It goes 10 through 13. It goes through the remainder of like what I want you to say. But what's incredible here is Isaiah does what is contrary to a lot of us. He says yes before he finds out what he's supposed to be doing. He just says, yeah, I'm in. Majority of us, if somebody looked at you and said, hey, will you do me a favor? We're going to want to know, what's the favor? As opposed to, sure, yeah, whatever, I'm in.
Yeah.
Isaiah does this. He steps up, and yeah, I'll go. All right, well, then he finds out, like, okay, well, while you're going, I want you to understand that everything that I'm about to put you through, it's not going to work. None of it is. You're going to go through the remainder of your time serving me, and the remainder of this passage, the remainder of this chapter lays out the people will not listen. In fact, your words are going to make them harder. All right, my question, hard question. Would we still be obedient if we knew that we weren't going to get our bell rung? Would we still be obedient if we weren't going to get the accolades, if it wasn't going to be fun, if it wasn't going to be all pretty and make us feel good inside? Is obedience enough to carry us through? It's just obedience to God said go, so I'm going to go. And that is everybody's individual answer.
Yeah.
Answer that. I struggle with this because I'm a very prideful individual, and I do like the attaboys, and I do like the pats on the back, and I do like the microphone, and I do like being on camera, and I do like all of these things. But it's a little bit of a gut check. Is would I look at God and say, you know what, you've saved me, you've taken me, you've handled this, I'll go. Even if it's not ideal. Even if it isn't about me. I'll be obedient. And sometimes I struggle with that.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I think that would be a prayer for me personally, maybe all of us, is that we would seek to be less about us and that, and more about God. Whatever it is that you want done, let's do it. Let's do it. Even if it's not in my best interests, even if my name isn't going to be in lights, even if the conversation is uncomfortable, you're telling me to go, and that's all I need to know. So I guess my challenge there, that we would be more, I'll just go. I'll just do it. Whatever God says, I'll just go. And then maybe I'll find out what I'm supposed to be doing, but he said move, so all right, I'm moving.
Yeah, that's a hard,
Yeah.
because even if it's not the accolades, maybe it's just like, no, I just want to experience this, and I think that can be just as big as like your name being big. It's like, no, I just want to experience accomplishing this.
Yeah.
Much the world we live in, of generations of everyone trying to accomplish something. What are you known for?
Yeah. What are you known for?
And us choosing what it is that we're known for, but we want to enjoy the whole ride.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I've said this before. If God ever called me to like Alaska, I'd be like, man, we're going to need to talk about it because I hate the cold. I am afraid of the Lord, so that really works out. I'm ultimately going to do what I'm told, but please don't make me go.
That would be hard because it'd be like Lord, give me all the money.
Yeah.
Give me all the money to go. I'm not asking to be rich. I don't want to pay for it because I want to go.
Yeah. I want to jump in the ocean and not be wet. Make that happen. I'm your man.
Yep. Mine's staying in the same vein. We've been kind of building up to the triumphal entry, which is at this week, Palm Sunday. But in Luke, the chapter or the story right before that, the parable that Jesus tells, it's one that we all know. It's actually in the scriptures twice. There's two different parables, and they're different by the means of the amount of things or the amount of money that's given to the servants. And so to kind of set this up, this is right after Zacchaeus, and it almost kind of I was just reading this earlier. It's almost like they're still in Zacchaeus' place because he tells Zacchaeus, man, today salvation has come to this house. And then verse 11 says, as they heard these things, he proceeded to tell the parable. I'm like, man, it's not even like a scene change. This is just part two of the same place. But that's just the wannabe Bible scholar me paying attention. So it says, a nobleman went to a far country and received for himself a kingdom, and then returned. Calling 10 of his servants, he gave them 10 minas, and he said to them, engage in business until I come. But the citizens hated him, and they sent delegation after him, saying, we do not want this man to reign over us. When he returned, receiving the kingdom, he ordered the servants to whom he had given the money to be called to him, and that he might know what they have gained by doing business. Everything about this passage says a little bit tiny in your question of like, yeah, let's do business, Lord. Let's do business. Mm-hmm. You give me money, and I will work in your stead. I will work in your spot. But it's more than just the money, because not to poke at things going on today, but minas was 3 months of wages. Mm. Not poking at stimulus checks, but we can very well equate to, here you go.
Interesting.
So what are you going to do with that money? What are we going to do that is going to be glorifying to the Lord? Now, I'm not saying that what the Lord has said, all right, go do business. That's actually not it at all. If you pay attention, there were 10 servants, and they were all given the same amount. In all the other passages, it's different servants, and they were to their blessings, their abilities. But the minas is the gospel. And so we're supposed to engage in business with the gospel, engage and be known who we're working for. Because when it comes to business, man, one thing that people want to know is who's backrolling you, who's paying the bills of it. And a lot of times that's found out. It's known. And there should definitely be a reflective element of that being expressed. And so this whole thing kind of comes down because there's three areas that are come into this. The rest of the passage plays out just like the other ones. The other passages that were the servants who were given different. They gained a return and brought it to the Lord and said, "This is what I've returned for you." And the Lord then returned and blessed them and said, "Hey," actually, he equated them to exactly what they were given. Of one of them brought back 10 more minas, and he says, "Therefore, I'm going to put you over 10 cities." One brought back 5. He says, "Well done. I'm going to put you over 5 cities." And then there was one that brought back just what he was given, and he said he's wrapped in a napkin, and therefore it's like, and there's a little bit of this debate back and forth of, did he even want to go through it anyway? And was he even thinking about what he was going to receive on it? And so this all kind of tying back into it, there was those two responses of one who was faithful and one who was really kind of selfish or just didn't care. But the third response is actually the people. We don't want this man to reign over us. And therefore it's like, man, we're just going to take our life and go.
Wow.
So there's this big, huge separation of how we live our life and what we're doing with what we hear, and what we hear ideally being the gospel,
Wow.
and using the gospel in such a way that, man, this is how we do in business. This is how we live out. And to kind of make this even maybe a little more convicting, I got one more verse for us, 1 Corinthians 12:7, and the whole rest of this passage goes into 10, but I just want to type into verse 7. It says, "To each is given a manifestation of the Spirit," right? So the same thing. It says, "for the common good." And this is, I think, where we have a problem where you say, oh, the common good, it's profitable.
Right on.
And we are more than willing to say, okay, we need to just stand there on the finances. I'm going to use what God has blessed me to make myself profitable or to make my family. And it's not evil, but the love of it is evil. The love of money is the root of all sin, root of all evil. And so this whole area of the common good, man, now you got to dig into, all right, what is good? And I think that when you look at Scripture, as I actually studied this last week, the word good in the Jewish culture was held only for God. It wasn't, it's acceptable, it's okay, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
But that's not what they use that word for. That word was saved for God and God alone. Right? And so if it's the common good, man, God desires that all come to the knowledge of Jesus Christ, but knows only some will. Right? Those are words of Paul to Timothy. And so inside this reality of common good, man, we need to take what is good to us, viable, look past the temporal, look past the physical, look past the monetary, and look at, man, what does God have for me? Not what can I get out of this, but what does God have for me? Because those are two totally different questions.
Sure.
So inside this one of building into, in Palm Sunday, of realizing, man, the gospel, it's being given to the world through Jesus. And how are we buying our life into how we are investing into the gospel with our life on a daily basis, of whether it's gaining knowledge about him so you can better express him, or if it's simply just, man, praising that you've done, that you've been given, and those who you come in contact with.
It's, you look at this, the gospel story that we've been given and allowed to be a part of. It's incredible that God uses us, and the story that we have is God's story, and how amazing is it, and that investment that he's given into us, right, to go and tell. So it's kind of a good segue into it. Coming up in next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Next Wednesday, we have an opportunity. How cool is it that we're a year from the shutdowns, and man, we can do this again. Like we can meet next Wednesday. We're gonna have a worship service, 6:30 to 7:30 in our auditorium in person, and we want everybody there. But the point is to go and be around believers and be around the gospel and be around this story that is life-changing, world-changing. And then that leads into Sunday morning we get to celebrate Easter. How incredible is that? So next Wednesday, we will have a worship experience in here just to celebrate God and what he is doing, and then followed by Easter. And so what I want you guys to do, begin to invite as many people as possible to these celebrations. Easter celebration next Wednesday, not this Wednesday, 2 days from now. We'll have just regular church, right, for that.
Yeah. And so one of the things that might be kind of interesting lead into inviting someone is, man, just ask them like, hey, do you know what the Passover is?
Oh, yeah.
Man, 'cause Pastor Brett, he's going to walk through the last Passover, and he's going to give it in detail of the context that we lack, because, man, we're not from that culture, and we see Passover, and there's so much into it. We understand with the blood on the doorpost and the death angel will pass over the Israelites' house. We get that from the Old Testament, but the actual Passover, like, man, let's go through and highlight what are those elements, those sacrificial elements that we remember him through. But man, if you want to have someone an opportunity to explain that to them, man, come on.
And so invite as many people as possible. Let's praise God for this moment, and definitely for the salvation and everything that over the next handful of weeks, what this means. And we get to celebrate Jesus out loud in front of everyone.
Yeah.
So love you guys, and we'll see you Wednesday night, Sunday morning.
Yeah.